You ready? Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the City of Laconia Conservation Commission meeting for Wednesday, January 7th, 2026. I'm Dean Anson.
Deb Williams.
Lisa Moran.
Rod Cameron.
Dan Huberman.
Jen Kreitzer.
Pete Nagel.
Savannah Brunel.
Okay, we have a quorum, so we're going to start off by saluting the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Savannah is our recording secretary. Savannah is the staff in attendance. Wow, all these hats. Okay. So you've met all the new members, right?
I think so, yes. Introduced ourselves as they came in.
What?
They introduced themselves as they came in.
Right, okay. So we got Rod, Dan, and Peter.
Perfect.
Perfect. Okay, so we have the minutes from the December 17th meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review those?
Oh. Why does it say Wednesday, December 3rd at the top and then December 17th minutes?
Good question.
Probably use the form.
Okay, I was just trying to, I didn't know if there was some reason something we had to do. I move we accept the minutes of December 17th of the Conservation Commission as presented.
Before we do that, my name is spelled incorrectly.
Okay.
Mine too,
In the attendance,
in the,
Yeah,
okay. I will fix that.
it's double O.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Even close.
It's probably spell check.
And Peter, the email that we have for you got kicked back. So if you could just tell Savannah what your correct email address is so that we can communicate with you.
okay, I was getting emails
We,
until like about a week ago.
No?
we had the same thing happen with rods. It's only Grayson that's having that issue. I haven't had anybody emails bounce back to me personally when I send you guys emails.
Okay.
So,
Until about a week ago, I was getting I was just surprised the last week I didn't see too much.
Okay, all right, because Gray told me that there was a problem.
okay.
I'll just go through everything.
So,
And my name is E.L., not L.E., at the end.
Maybe, yeah, maybe there was,
Maybe
there was
maybe
an issue
the-
with the address he wrote down.
Right.
Yes.
No, I use weird addresses, so it's possible to easily miss a dash or dot.
okay, the other thing, just to do a little housekeeping, is one of our members is Bob Harrington, and he has some medical issues, and he's going to be out for a while. And he would like to continue to get the emails, because he can read his emails. And I'd like him to stay up to speed on what's going on. He's a really good guy, really good guy, so. And we have a card form, so if you would like to send him a message, then I'll mail it to him, or take it down to where he lives.
I'll second Lisa's motion.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, any other comments? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, good, thank you. Okay. Okay, we don't have any minutes from DES, or any applications from DES. And I didn't do anything to flesh out these projects, under old business. I didn't do anything about that. So,
I have a question, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair. Savannah, when's the next meeting of the city council? Is it the first It's the first Monday, first and third Monday, is that right?
Yes, so it should be,
Okay.
well, it'll be the 26th.
Um,
126?
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you.
Because the 19th is a holiday,
Yeah.
they wouldn't have it on the 20th. Sometimes they do that.
I'll have to double check.
The only reason why I was asking was I didn't know, Mr. Chair, if we want to, when do we want to approach them and familiarize them with who we are, what our projects? I'm just saying, I mean, maybe it might help to do it sooner rather than later, but I don't know, because I don't know what their schedule is and stuff.
So when does a new council get sworn in?
Yesterday?
Yesterday.
No, 2 days ago. Last
Yeah.
Monday.
Okay, so then, okay. Then it makes sense to do it
We
sooner
can
rather than later.
check their agenda.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's gonna be on it with new members being in the council. I don't know what they're trying to
Who do you-
prioritize.
Who do you reach out to get on their agenda?
Rob, I think Rob would reach out to Nancy.
Okay. And I mean, I didn't envision it taking a long time. It's just, hello, these are the things we're looking at, and we,
And give them a printed copy.
yeah,
Yeah.
and occasionally we do information, not, I don't want to call it a session, but we provide information to the council.
I will have to say, while I was looking at their agenda for Monday, they were not televised on Monday for some reason.
It's because it was at the mill.
Because it,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
because
so
they
we
did
don't
a
have-
swearing, yeah, it was
Yeah.
different. Anyway, but I did look at their agenda, and they were appointing their council members to different subcommittees and all. And it was interesting that they had, Heritage Committee, Human Rights, but no Conservation Commission. Have they ever had a
Ex officio.
liaison?
It's
I don't think so, not a.
planning, right? It's
Yeah.
all under the planning department. Do they have anything?
Well, we
They
used
do
to
have something for planning, yeah, they had
Yeah.
planning.
Planning board.
Yeah,
Before the new members, we also had a city council liaison on like the TIFs, and we don't, they weren't appointed to the TIFs, so I don't know if they're just,
so, so Mike was appointed from the ZBA and Gail was from the planning board, right? I don't know that we've had, in my remembering, a city council member be our liaison. It's always been somebody from one of the other.
I would just, it might be, it would be great to let the city council know what we're doing, but it would also be nice to have one member that maybe we could communicate with and be our liaison. Not to attend our meetings, but just for us to,
And have them report on us, like,
Yeah.
report, I don't mean it that way, but.
it's just a thought. When I saw Heritage's, I was like,
Yeah, I was there, I was surprised
oh, okay,
that
Good.
there was nothing from the Conservation
Yeah.
Commission, yeah.
but that would be a good way for them to,
Right, okay, so, all right, so I'll talk to Rob and ask him if he has somebody he would suggest that we contact to ask to be our liaison or point of contact.
And-
And I have an idea, I actually have two ideas.
And also follow up on when we can present to them.
Right.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah, put us on the agenda, but not at the end of the meeting. I have to bring a sleeping bag. Okay, all right, so I'll talk to Rob, get on the agenda, and
just so you know,
I
I'm
hope-
not around.
When are you gone?
I'm leaving the 18th and not coming back till the 30th, so.
but the meeting will be on Zoom, so you'll be able to,
I'm just saying if you wanted me to go with you to present or
Oh, okay.
whatever. Just,
Okay.
you know.
well, we can bring you in. We'll fly you in.
Yeah.
And, wait a minute, this helicopter, that's laying, Deb Williams is on that, she's, okay. All right. So I think you take these, take all of these items in 8 under old business and just put a couple of sentences with each one of them.
Do they, the list that you had done up, Jen, are they pretty, these are consistent with that, or is there anything else on your
Here's the
list?
list. Here's the
That's
list.
the list?
Mhm.
Okay. Never mind.
There wasn't descriptions though.
Okay.
On mine.
Yeah.
I don't know if Dean added. Well, there might have been a little bit. It's been a while since I've looked at it.
This was it, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Yeah, just so we make sure that we include everything.
Yeah, I think I made the list from that list.
Okay.
from Jen's. Okay,
I mean, I feel like the previous minutes has all that information too.
Yes, yeah,
okay.
and our last agenda.
Okay, so do we want to talk about old business anymore?
Do any of our new members have any questions about any of the old business? We sort of went over them last time, but if you had questions about our projects?
Not now, no.
Okay,
I think that if we put a couple of sentences with each one and send it to everybody so that they have it,
Excuse me.
then you know a little bit more about each one of these, and so. Okay, so I have asked, hey, we spelled your name right on this one. Dan, we got one right, we got 50% right. Still didn't get
That's right.
Peter's right, but.
Yeah.
So, we kind of have, the way that we've been doing, the four of us have been doing things, so now we have an opportunity. We have 3 new people who can pick up stuff that we aren't doing. For instance, Rod did the groundwater aquifer protection district, which is, he printed out here, and that's really helpful as a starter, but as he pointed out, we really need to do more than this, and so he's gonna do that. Dan, I thought climate change, that if you could coordinate with MUF
Yep,
and bring us, it's, I don't think there's I don't know, maybe I should ask the question. Does anybody have a question as to whether climate change is real?
Well, or
or man-made,
object, or object, oh, go ahead.
or man-made.
Define climate change.
What?
Define climate change.
Changes in temperature and its impact on glaciers and weather and,
Due to man-related activities.
Right.
That's the key
Especially
part.
the burning of fossil fuels.
burning of fossil fuels and,
but I also think you have to recognize that there's environmental changes that are gonna happen too. I mean, yes, 80% of it is probably due to emissions, but, climate will change as a
right,
planet grows older.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
but it's more than,
The data,
Right.
than 80%.
the data clearly indicates that there is a significant change that is not due to typical.
I'm not, I
I'm
don't
just-
question that. I'm just saying
I'm
that
throwing
there
out
is a
there
tiny
that-
percentage where things, even if we weren't here, things might change.
Yes,
No,
it's a small amount.
there's no question that it would change, it would always change.
Right.
It's always changing.
So, I mean,
But,
people
but
might
the
argue
change
that.
now is such that, the change now is that we've observed. And by the way, we have equipment now that can measure these changes much better than it used to. In addition to that, my uncle was a glaciologist in Antarctic, and he studied what was happening down there. And the information that he obtained back in the 1950s compared to the information that they are obtaining today in the Antarctic. It's summer down there, right? The information that they're collecting today clearly indicates that there is a significant change that is occurring that is not due to natural causes, and in fact is a result of man-made activities. Since the
I
industrial.
totally agree.
Well, I'm
I'm
just
being-
saying
just
that this is,
playing the,
Well, I testified in front of the State House, the so-called Science, Technology, and Energy Committee, and have been told that it's all a hoax. So,
So it seems, well, it seems like at least on our commission, we are all in agreement that there's some level that is being affected by man. I don't want to put words in your mouth, Peter,
I
but
think it's bad to put too much carbon dioxide into the atmosphere.
Yeah.
As far as global warming or climate change, I think it's, I don't agree that there's proof.
so I did a study in the Soviet Union
I'm
On-
sorry.
on rapid sea level rise. And we have data for this as well, that if things don't change, that the sea level is going to rise significantly. And it's going to affect, not us necessarily, like it's going to affect all my friends in the Philippines, or how it's going to affect Venice, or other countries and other states that are, like Florida, that are in a position where any sort of minimal sea level rise is going to be significant. The other thing is that the number of storms has not necessarily increased, like hurricanes. It's the intensity of these storms that have increased so much that it's creating incredible havoc. That's why you can't get flood insurance down in Florida anymore, because of the storms that they have experienced recently.
so I think for our group, no matter what our individual perspective is on this, what I think the Conservation Commission can address is things like when we have more 90-degree days, regardless of what the cause is, we have more 90-degree days than we did when I was a youngster. And how, as a Conservation Commission, can we help to address that? You know, so like, do we encourage more shade trees in town? Do we talk about energy conservation in terms of if you're gonna use an air conditioner, these are the models that are energy savings, rather than try to focus on why?
The cause.
How do we address them in a way that the Conservation Commission kind of, that's in our, I don't wanna call it bailiwick, I really don't like that word, but that's in our lane.
Right, and Peter, what were you gonna say?
That was a good statement. I think it's a smart way to go. I think we could argue about the climate change forever, but, I mean, I was just gonna mention every prediction they've made in the past, like Al Gore said California's gonna be underwater in 15 years, and he said that in 95, and, I mean, just every single one, there's like so many variables. And
There's
the
no question
past
that's true.
data is so
Lots of
poor.
variables.
How did they measure something in Zambia 100 years ago? So how can you tell me that it's getting warmer or colder there? So,
Al Gore's a politician, he's not a scientist.
He's not a scientist.
no, but he was a leader of the whole thing.
No, he wasn't.
No, he wasn't.
Oh, come on.
Okay, but that's not the point, that's not the point. I think that the answer, what I'm hearing is, we're not gonna debate climate change. We're going to look for ways that we can address the outcome of climate change, either by suggesting to the city that we put solar collectors on the roofs to supply electricity, we put in more shade trees, we plant different kinds of shade trees that can withstand higher temperatures, and how can we're not gonna change it, but we have to adapt to it. So how do we adapt to it?
Yeah, I think what Lisa said was great, is a way to approach things, so.
Added to that, I would include things like evaluating stormwater
yeah, I was just
Yeah.
gonna say
management,
that.
that sort of thing, because the effect of whatever's happening comes in many different guises.
Right.
You know. And we're right in the, we're sitting in the hot spot, you know, the hot seat, to be able to bring these ideas and this information to the public and to the city council and so on.
Yeah, New England is one of the fastest growing, fastest warming areas on the planet. Second to only an area in Alaska. So we've had New England as a whole has had a 4.5 degree average temperature increase, which is huge. There is well, we can see it, but I was just gonna mention, there's a wonderful tool called En-ROADS, which is from MIT, and it shows you what interventions could change the climate. You know, if you had more fission or more fusion, or you can do all sorts of scenarios, play it out. But what's even more interesting is they just added a feature on it that you can look at local temperature projections. So we could look at Laconia or areas around it and plot out the temperature increases. So it's very helpful. It's a major project. They're constantly updating it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great.
Good. Okay, so I thought, Peter, your interest in the outdoors would, you know, we haven't looked at our conservation easements in a few years, and we're,
Yeah, no, I took a look at it. It looks really interesting, so it's
Yeah.
a great assignment for me.
so it's, you know, we typically do it, let's see, when do we, I think we've done it in the fall. And it's, you know, we need to contact the landowners and make sure that we can get on there and on their land, and in some cases, they'll accompany us, but anyway, it's, so,
Yeah, I looked at a lot, like at the deeds and stuff like that. It looks a little complicated, but,
yeah,
um,
it is complicated, yeah, because they're not all the same.
yeah, it was interesting, all the areas I didn't know about in Laconia too. It's pretty amazing. But,
So anyway, so that was something that I talked to Deb about doing, and
did you have the name of a person then to contact, or?
I think there is a 3-ring binder with all of the conservation easement documents in there, and Savannah has it down in the planning department.
Okay.
So, you know, then you can see, you know, some of them allow public access, some don't.
Mhm.
And,
Yeah, it's hard to figure out exactly. But I did have one question after reading it, is for that old North Street project that we talked about last week, would it be possible to ask them to do an easement? I mean,
Sure.
it's wetlands, because there's really not that many easements in Laconia, so.
in the
it would-
downtown area. And
And
it's,
then, yeah.
yeah, right, there aren't.
But I just wondered, is that something that we could have asked them to consider, or?
We've done that with other applicants that have come in.
Because that might overcome some of the objections about putting the signs on the trees and stuff.
Right. But I think that they've tabled their application. They tabled their application, so.
I'm just asking in general
Right,
if that
right.
would be something in the future to.
Right, and so when an applicant comes in and they're going to disturb a wetland, we ask them how they can reduce the amount of disturbance. Sometimes we've asked them, if you're gonna disturb this part of the wetland, can you put a different part into conservation so that we, you know, so that the size of the wetland is not as damaged.
Right.
So yeah, when applicants come, we try to make suggestions on the best way to do their project.
Okay.
And sometimes we go with,
I mean, some are agreeable. I mean, we've had a couple people, right? I mean, Brady Sullivan.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are some parcels around, which, I mean, and a lot of the developers are now looking to do the cluster development, which means they would leave, you know, a lot more open land around it. And that's, they're clearly, you know,
Yeah, I guess when they,
that's a thing we could ask, for sure.
when they do the big project by Ahern Park, they'll be doing easements maybe. I forgot what they call it.
Oh, I don't know what they call it.
the one over on Cripple
New
Pond.
Village or whatever. it's
No,
called,
where
the
the,
big
No,
one
the
at
where
state
the
school.
school
The
used
state
to
school.
be.
State school.
the-
Yeah,
the-
big one that's
The
coming,
Ahern property.
the big one coming,
The state school property?
yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think there's any pond there.
No, he's just saying, you know, maybe they could do an easement there somewhere.
Yeah, I think one of the things, when they come with their project design, the land, generally speaking, the land along Mayor Center Road that abuts Merritt's is wetlands. So we don't want them to damage the wetlands. And the WOW Trail was looking for a way to extend their trail, and they were going to go through the wetlands and put it on a walkway, and we're not in favor of that.
Yeah.
So,
it's good.
so, anyway, so this is the way for us to expand the kinds of things that we do in the commission. So each one of you have input by, by coming up with ideas on how we can affect the climate, or what's the best way, making sure that we include conservation easement walks, and who's gonna do them, when are we doing them? So, we've been like, oh yeah, we have to do that, and then it's like, oh, it's winter.
Sometimes that's easier, though.
I know, sometimes.
And we don't usually, it's usually, there's two of us that will go out. So,
Yeah,
yeah, aren't usually by yourself.
no.
It sounds fun. It's great to be outside and doing.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so getting back last time we were here and they were talking about those 50-year storms, that would be an example, because that's based on FEMA maps, is that right? When they said they're sizing it for a 50-year storm?
I think,
FEMA does the 100-year storm.
Okay. Where does well, FEMA doesn't include climate change.
No, I'm just saying, the site design,
Yep.
the engineer doing the site design said that he used a 50-year storm to size the system.
Okay.
That has nothing to do with FEMA.
Where does he come up with 50-year? Where are those numbers from? A 50-year?
50-year storms?
Stats, yeah.
That's just statistically, they come up,
They're, I'm not sure that they're published from FEMA.
okay.
They're published data, and that they change as a result of whatever's happening,
So does that
over the years.
But does that include the projections of
Yes,
climate
it does,
change? It does, okay.
They're now looking at what used to be called a 100-year storm.
It's now a 50.
No, it's not that it's 50, but there are numbers that they are running now to make adjustments to determine the impact of that. The end result of it has to do principally with the elevation of surface water, and the drainage areas that are contributing to those surface waters, whether they're rivers or streams or lakes, ponds, that sort of thing. But from the engineering standpoint, the main reason for that is primarily to make a determination about the size of the piping and so on that needs to be installed. Does that sound about right?
I think that's right, and I think, isn't, they're doing, we're gonna have to look at our stormwater systems.
No question. Well,
Yeah.
every community needs to do that.
I'm sorry?
Every community
Right,
needs to do that.
right.
Right.
So one of the things that we had done as a commission was we hired not hired, but we engaged with a student who was working on their master's degree from,
UNH?
no,
Antioch?
Antioch, thank you.
Antioch, okay,
I
good.
don't know why, I can't remember that. But and he did a computer, he prepared a computer model that showed that if we got an inch of rain in the city of Laconia, this is where you would have stormwater problems, flooding. And it's set up so that you can look at 1 year, or 1 inch, 10 inches, 15 inches of rain in an event, and it will tell you what will flood. And how badly it'll flood. And I don't think anybody has used it. It's like in a drawer, on a shelf, somewhere. And we need to get it out so that we can,
Didn't he also provide digital, isn't it also electronic, the POR
Yeah.
study?
Mhm.
Yeah.
so
It would be a
somewhere.
good thing to
you can-
include in the master plan, for sure.
Yeah, so what we need to do is, I'll call Taylor Daigle and ask her where she put it. She was the former conservation technician who was in charge when we did this project. So,
How many years ago was that?
I'm sorry?
How many years ago was that?
4 or 5? Is that?
I was gonna say
I-
3.
Oh, maybe-
Oh,
Let's
was
say
it three?
4.
I don't,
Maybe 3.
because my boss in Belmont worked for the city in planning.
Karen?
I think it was, I think Karen had already left.
Okay.
By the time Taylor came.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I could have asked her if the
Right,
dates
right.
coincided.
We have it. I thought
Yeah, we have
Ray
it.
had found it.
Anyway, I think we need to resurrect it, and I'll call Taylor and ask her where it is. So, just so that we have it. And then, so, Rod pulled up the aquifer, and this is the, so these.
Transmissivity,
This is, right, but this is stratified drift?
yes.
Okay, so these are stratified drift. So when the glaciers left, they dropped this sand and gravel, and this is, the orange areas are where it is. But then we have, so, what was it? So, do you know Dan Tinkham? Dan Tinkham is a geologist who is, I've had conversations with him, and I was like, okay, could you slow down and put that into English, please? He worked on, oh, I know where I found it. So, he worked on the superficial deposits and their uses and the quality in Laconia. He and another man, Goldthwaite, did this in 2002, and it's referenced in the natural resource chapter of the 2007 master plan for the city. So he might be somebody that we would want to contact when we get down the road doing this. But Rod and I had a conversation before the meeting about how we can use what
other communities have.
Yeah, thank you. Go ahead.
No, that was basically it, is that I had Grace send out to all of you a copy of the report that was prepared by the Lakes Region Planning Commission and along with, I guess, DES data. And it basically went over the approach on how this aquifer protection district was identified, you know, for the three towns of Belmont, Tilton, and Northfield. And it's a pretty good roadmap. Other things that are not well developed in it have to do with issues related to existing and potential sites where contamination occurred and how that impacts the aquifer. That's a critical part of that. It doesn't necessarily go into the overlay district, but it certainly needs to be understood, you know, where those activities occur. And for better or worse, New England is a mill region, and we've got a lot of contamination all over the place, whether it's from industry or even other types of activities that have occurred. So, in any event, so there are a number of things that, in addition to simply identifying the location of the aquifer and defining it, it's important to understand, for planning purposes, the potential for issues related to contamination. Knowing where wells are, you know, I'm not sure where in Laconia people are still on wells, but that information is really important. Well, there you go. So, but that information ought to be included in our evaluation of the aquifer protection. So there are a number of details that really need to be looked into.
Can you explain what the orange areas?
That, yeah, I don't have the paper in front of me. Thank you. Down the bottom, it more or less says what it is. That is the stratified drift. Those are the areas of, those are the areas that show where the glacial till is located, that have been identified by geologists. And this was back in, the 1980-something, 87 or something.
Say that, yeah, I think so.
And they've been doing series of studies. The good news, and this is important to understand, is that geology generally does not change a whole lot. You know, it's pretty static, unless you have an earthquake or something else going on.
Or you live in.
Long periods of time.
What?
Or long.
That's correct. The timeline for these changes is fairly long. So if something's done in 1980, you know it's going to be reasonably good. But the other part has to do with the equipment that they had at the time to do this studies. And the equipment today is way better than it used to be. We have the ability to do remote sensing of these types of areas much better than they did back then. They had augers and so on to
Right.
dig test pits and things like that. But today it's different. Anyway, so these areas on this particular map indicate where there's less than 2,000 feet per square per day, which is the movement of groundwater through these areas.
Okay.
That's what it is. So the transmissivity we're talking about is the transmission of groundwater through these
Gotcha.
pockets of sand and gravel,
Okay.
okay? The interesting thing is in the town of Belmont, and I get to look at this every day, are huge areas of these types of soils, huge areas. And right where those huge areas are, we have significant activities where they're excavating this stuff. And the most recent, and this is an aside, I don't know if you want to hear this or not, but we just got a proposal at one of these gravel sites where the guy wants to dig down 25 feet into the aquifer to remove sand. The water table is like, you know, a foot below the surface, or 2 feet below the surface of where the grade is now, because they've already excavated down. And they want to go 25 feet into the actual aquifer to get sand out of it. So anyway, so
So they're gonna pump the sand out.
that's a possibility. And I have a story for that, but I'm not going to mention it. Because I got a story, I got too many stories. Anyway, so that's what that is. That's what it represents.
So these are the areas we need to be concerned about.
That's correct.
Okay, got it.
So what do aquifers actually do? Why is?
What do the aquifers do?
Yeah,
Their function, there's a number of things that they do in terms of, one of the main things that they do for us is they provide us with clean drinking water.
okay.
That's one of the key things, you know. And they also provide an opportunity for the collection of these waters, and as it filters down into them, then we have storage of water. One of the major concerns that we don't talk about is the fact that at some point in time in history, in the future, there may be a deficit of drinking water. And so protecting these areas are a critical piece for conservation, for, you know, for all of us.
It's one of the things that a former New Hampshire state rep had talked to me about, thank you, had talked to me about was that, you know, when a developer comes and they say, we're gonna put in 5 houses, okay? The guy next to him is like, we're gonna put in 6 houses. There was no collective information on how much is being withdrawn from that aquifer. It's like, well, it's just this 5 houses, why are you concerned? This aquifer's got enough. So they weren't connecting the dots, was one of the things that had come up. And how many holes are you punching in an aquifer, and what's the recharge rate? And so,
When we do designs with wells at any site, we have to identify the cone of influence. That cone of influence, when you dig a well down, the cone of influence goes out like this. So when you have competing individuals or groups or whatever that are going after that, that's what ends up happening, is that one day someone wakes up and says, you know, where's our water?
Yeah.
And there was just something that was recently published by the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions that we got today, which is talking about addressing this specific problem.
Because we are having longer periods of drought.
That's correct. Yeah.
I mean, a case in point is, Jen, on your street, you have 23 houses now, and,
Something like that.
and you're all on wells, and the developer wants to put in 26 houses, all on wells. So how big is the pool of water, that aquifer underneath? And, you know, what Rod was saying is exactly right, which is, is the area that's going to be pumped going to be big enough so that it now it's influencing areas where there's contaminated soil? And so this is I think this is a major issue related to the growth of constructing houses and other buildings that are gonna demand a lot of water.
So one of the requirements ought to be that, for, you know, for the planning department, is that when they submit plans, that they also have calculations, if they're gonna be drilling wells, that they need to show
The cone of influence.
the cone of influence. They need to show that on their plans. That should be a requirement.
Is it
And,
not?
huh?
Is it not a requirement?
No, of course not.
No, well, I disagree. I think that when I talked to Rob Mora, he told me that they were going to have to do that kind of a study for the project over near Pickerel Pond.
Right, but they don't typically require that. It's
Right.
not in our regulations, in the city of Laconia regulations right now.
Something
And it
else to
ought to be at some point, you know, as soon as
It's like
possible.
a no-brainer.
Well, the problem is this, is if you have a 1 acre piece of property and you're gonna drill a well, you're only looking at your property, and you're not looking at the other properties that are associated or adjacent to you. And that's where the problem lies. They'll go, well, how am I supposed to, I'm not responsible for these other people. And the answer is, well, yeah, you are.
I was interested, this report that you sent to us was from 2003.
Yeah.
So since this report, has Belmont changed their regulations, or have they made things stricter as far as their aquifer?
No, of course not.
Okay, so.
And then you said this map was also like what did you say, 1980?
Well, we said that the geology doesn't change, so that is a fairly accurate, well,
But,
within limits.
Right.
You know, the other thing about science is that these are all approximations.
well, and
So it's,
when I look at this map, if this map is as old, what year did you say? I mean, yes, geology doesn't change.
it could be somewhere in the 1980s probably.
But the development of the land above it changes,
All right,
and the uses and the,
absolutely.
discharge.
Right, so this is not showing you how much is in that aquifer. It's just showing you that these are the areas where this geology, that these aquifers have existed. And-
Have existed, but what I'm saying is.
Well, we don't
so-
know
Right, I'm
from this
just-
map.
I'm like thinking,
What's the volume?
I'm thinking of Gilbert Block.
I
It's
know.
over this aquifer.
Well, and he's removed a lot
And-
of the sand.
Yeah,
Right.
and it's like, has he affected the aquifer? It's.
He may have affected the recharge rate,
Yeah,
but I, from what he's been doing, I wouldn't think at this point, we're looking at him as because he's taking away, he's not dumping stuff and all that other, so, well,
although,
okay.
there is,
So we don't know, and the only way you can determine that is go into the site and do a study to find out if, the activities are contaminating the aquifer. But that's not gonna happen unless there's some obvious problems. And normally what happens is that, that's an after-the-fact thing. So that, like Love Canal or whatever, that you don't know until people start getting sick. You don't know until,
it just seems like it should be looked into before there's any development there, any more development. Do you know what I mean?
So-
I think the other thing is we need to know where all of the abandoned landfills are in the city and outside
There
of the
is
city.
one right there too.
Because there are some, we don't monitor them. We just, I think that
they're probably not called landfills either, probably just dump sites.
well,
Right.
you can call me Ray, you can call me Jay, it's still, got,
Yeah,
it has stuff in it that wasn't regulated when it was put there.
right. And there's no liner for it when
There's
they
no
put it
liner.
down.
And
So
there's
it-
no, and it's like, so, back to what Rod was talking about, when you go to clean up those landfills, you need to put in wells that will pump the groundwater out, clean the groundwater, but you gotta figure out how big an area you need to pump the water from.
So Savannah, is this something that's on the radar for the land use department? The dump sites, landfills in Laconia, do you know if there's already some identified, how they've been addressed, and if there are plans to seek out other locations?
I know that we have them identified. That's about all the information I know.
Right.
I
So-
can figure out everything else you asked, so I can ask Rob.
So, Mr. Chair, I would say if this is something that we want to make the commission passionate about, we put it on our to-do list, and we explore what information the city already has, identify what we believe are the gaps. I would also get in touch with DES and find out what their protocols, I'm sure that other towns have done this. And then come back to us, whether it's staff or yourself, come back to us and just kind of give us an update on what our next steps could be. I am anticipating might be some money involved in this, so we might have, I'm just saying, we might also be thinking about our budget. There are other towns that, and Rob, if you could, Ron, if you know of any, that may have done studies. I'm thinking of Tamworth, because they wanted to put that racetrack right on top of their aquifer. And I know that the town of Guilford, the Laconia Airport is right on top of their aquifer. And one of the things that used to happen, because my brother had a small plane and would fly it, is to test the, I'll call it the validity of the gas, would get a little cup, see it, great, toss it on the ground. So I don't know if those protocols have changed now too, but I'm just saying, I think there are things that we can be doing. If you want to make this a passion of this commission and something to address, then that would be what I would suggest.
So when I had my business, this is the kind of stuff I would do, and there is a company that we could go to that would identify, and before we went to this company, I would call Lakes Region Planning Commission, because they did all kinds of studies for brownfield sites.
It's called Phase 1 studies.
Yeah, but when they did the phase 1, they would identify, where should phase 2 studies be done, because phase 1 was a windshield survey and a paper search, and
Right.
that was it. And then you made a recommendation as to whether you went and did sampling of soil and groundwater to see if there was contamination. And my recollection is that when LRPC did their studies, what came back was not a whole lot of requirement for sampling of soil and groundwater. But there is a company that will go back in history, since, we were a mill town, maybe we still are. And they would identify that this site here used to have an underground storage tank that leaked, was documented to have leaked. And it's just like the gas station over on, Route 11
Yes,
in Guilford.
the leaking,
That,
yeah.
the groundwater there is flowing toward the lake, generally speaking, toward the lake. And, we could experience it. So it's, if we wanted to have this company do a search for all of the sites, and they go back to the 1800s and document based on history, where there were sites and who had underground tanks, and maybe, they didn't document spills then.
So if I could, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's okay.
Maybe for the next meeting, and I don't know, you or Savannah, could we get in touch with LRPC and have that report sent to us? Just to, okay, this is our first step to familiarize ourselves with what's out there, so what's LRPC's report? That's our first step, and we can.
You do that.
We can revisit this at the next meeting to determine what we think. I guess, I don't know.
Is well water routinely tested? Is there any sense we know what's going on in people's wells?
Only if you want to.
So I know, I don't know how many there are. I know of at least one monitoring well where the city knows they have contaminated soil. There's like a monitoring well there. And so I think those are being tested, but I think the individuals, like if you purchase a home, I think that's where you pay to
It's
have
on
your own
you.
water test, yeah. Yeah, or someplace like, this is not in our town, but I know like Guilford has their own water company for the acres. They'll do, that does their testing, but we don't have that, it's not our town, but I'm just saying.
But you can collect samples of your water and take it to the water department, and they will do it, but they're only gonna do it they're not gonna do it for contaminants, they're gonna do it for drinking water quality. What's the
Okay.
pH? I don't know what
They're not going to test for
Geoguardia.
PFAS.
do what?
Probably not
So-
Geoguardia.
So that's the other thing, Savannah,
No.
could you,
Giardia?
I'm gonna ask Savannah, could you also provide us with, because I think it's on a pamphlet, the water departments, what the water department tests the city water for? When you send us the LRPC report, also what the water department tests for. Thank you.
They may test the city water for PFAS, but I don't know if they have that, if they do that for wells.
Yeah, that's costly, I think.
Because the water department, and if maybe we can get them to give us a tour, that would be great.
That'd be
It is a
fun.
great tour. They are like, these guys are like don't underestimate
They're
them.
super
They are
nice,
really
too.
smart, they're very nice. I think that when they sample, so if I took a sample of my water to them, they would test it for drinking water standards.
Salt marsh.
Not for contaminants, not for,
So pH, salinity, that.
yeah, that kind of thing. But, and, you know, we do it when we go out and that's another thing we need to talk about. We have to do, tributary sampling, tributary and deep water samples. We do on a monthly basis for about 5 months out of the year. So we have to physically go out and then collect the samples, and we use the machines that the state lets us borrow to do the on-site testing, and then we send them for, send samples for chlorophyll and phosphorus, I think it is. So I think, you know, getting back to climate change, connecting climate change with Rod's water, you know, we have these, you know, these long periods of drought. And how are we going to, because we're talking about, you know, I don't know how deep Deb's well is.
It's pretty deep.
Pretty deep? You didn't dig it? Anyway.
No, they did it twice. It was, I think it had been a dug well, and then they made it deep. They made it a,
So
what do
they
you call it?
They drilled it.
Yeah.
They drilled the well, but, you know, so we're just talking about stratified drift here. What about the hard rock wells that are in there?
Fractured bedrock.
Yeah, and because that's a whole different ballgame. It's the same philosophy in terms of cone of influence, but the reliability of the well, anyway. But I think we need to tie the, you know, climate change to, you know, what are we doing about water here? Because we're just sitting here and we're saying, well, what, 17,000 people in Laconia and probably 15,000 get their water from Paugus Bay. And what happened last summer? That automobile repair place had a drum of contaminated material that spilled and wound up in Paugus Bay. Just a gradient of the drinking water intake. So, you know, I think we have a lot of, we got not just the mundane of, you know, here's another applicant that wants to put a thing in someplace,
It's the least of
but we have to, I think we have to guide the city to be prepared for what happens if somebody spills contaminated material into Paugus Bay. Now you're gonna shut down the drinking water wells for, the drinking water for 17,000 people or whatever it is, 15,000, however.
Is there
So-
contingent?
See, wetlands get a lot of focus when you consider, why wouldn't an aquifers also be something that you consider when, like the old North Street, or do they have wells, are they doing town water?
They were on city,
They're on
they're on city water.
But just in general, wouldn't that be something maybe on a checklist to
you would think.
say, well, we could maybe ask, you know, what's the potential impact of,
So we do have a checklist, and I don't think, do we need to vote on whether we want to put that on the checklist?
Well, would it be your cone of influence? Is that what you mean?
Sorry, I'm thinking cone of silence. Cone of influence.
I was doing that too.
Yeah, I don't know how you want to word it, but when we were having this conversation a little earlier, I was kind of thinking the same thing, Peter, that, you know, it's like, well, we haven't asked that, I don't think. So I would be willing to support putting some kind of language on that, like that on our checklist, or, which we can't enforce, but we can tell them we're going to ask these kinds of questions. So.
And what, I'm sorry, what was the question we were gonna ask?
Well, we could, along with our checklist where we say,
Mhm.
expect, like, you know, maybe we're gonna ask you about pervious surfaces or rain gardens or all this other stuff. We also put on that checklist your impact to aquifers and the cone of influence or cone of, or whatever, however we want to word it. Did I say it right?
Yeah,
Cone of-
on Get Smart, they call it the cone of silence, but yeah, the cone of influence.
I know, that's what I was like, the cone of influence. So, I mean, we could put that on our checklist. I would support that. That we, like I said, we can't enforce anything, but we can ask them, we can let them know we're gonna ask.
And, I've had this conversation with Rob with regard to the Pickerel Pond project. I said, they're gonna double the amount of water, in theory, double the amount of water that's being taken from that aquifer. What happens if they drill down 200 feet to collect their water, and Jen and her neighbors only have wells that go 100 feet, and they draw the level of the water in the ground down below 100 feet? Now she doesn't have water. Who's responsible for that?
Sue. I mean, that's basically, they tell you, sue them. He's
Yeah,
not,
but-
told it to us, sue them.
But that's why,
Yeah.
getting back to the cone of influence, that's why you need
So-
to know the cone of influence, you need to know the size of the aquifer and the rate that you're gonna pump it out. I've worked on a project on Long Island in New York, which was totally different, but it was adjacent to Long Island Sound, which is salt water, and they drew the bowl of fresh water, because fresh water is less dense than salt water, so it floats on top of the salt water, and they drilled, they put in extra houses, and they drilled the level of the amount of water in that bowl, of fresh water in that bowl down, so the people are now getting
Mr. Chair, if I could suggest, and I'm gonna let you make the suggestion, I'm just offering, this is my thought. If you want to make the suggestion, that at the next Conservation Commission meeting, we have our checklist available so that we can look at it again for maybe no more than like 5 minutes. I'm not saying we have to delve
Right,
into it,
right.
but so that our new members can also look at it. Maybe they have other things that we haven't thought of, they would want to see on that.
Okay,
So-
and Savannah's on it.
Okay, thank you.
She's already got it done.
Great, thank you.
Good idea. Okay.
I mean, maybe we could just add something like, has there been a groundwater study done, or
Sure.
something like that?
Yeah,
And, I mean, it would be great if it was part of the planning, not just on our list, but their list as well. I know it's kind of all part of the same list, but.
well, I think wasn't that something we had talked about, having more communication with the planning department? And that would be something to broach with them. We'd like you to consider, as part of your review, this element or component. We could certainly go to the planning board and request that. Maybe, I don't wanna
think-
leave Rob out of it.
I think when Scott was here, he said that when an applicant comes in, they're given the checklist. They said, this is what you have to do. And in fact, when 1206 came in, they referenced it. They said, we have your checklist. We said, yes, you do, but you didn't check it off. You were supposed to use it, not just append it to your application. And so, the planning department's doing what they should do, which is give them the checklist. The problem is, if the applicant doesn't use it, when they come here, we need to have the checklist and say, did you do number 1, number 2, number 3? Did you do number 7? No. Okay, I'll go back and do number 7. When you get it, come on back.
Well, I don't know that we have that authority, but it certainly puts it in the public sphere when they answer our questions. If they say, no, we didn't do these things, that it is recorded, that they didn't do it, and it also gets passed on to the planning board. So.
Right.
I mean, we don't.
Okay.
we
And
don't
the
have to-
planning board can decide whether to enforce it or not?
That's my understanding, is that right, Savannah?
Enforce the checklist?
Well, if we had made the recommendation, and then the planning board carries through with asking about the recommendation, and the developer says, no, and I don't think I want to, but the planning board finds it important, couldn't
Yes.
they then make it a,
Yep, the planning board can make it a condition of their approval.
I mean, I think the planning board has been supportive of the Conservation Commission for years. And the major change that took place when the planning board chair started coming to our meetings just to listen. And after he came to a few meetings, he said, I understand why you're asking for what you ask for. And that's when the planning board became much more supportive, and it's happened with every planning board chair since then. So it's been, I don't know, over 15 years, So it's, and I think I've said this before, in at least one instance, the planning board sent an applicant back to us and said, with the question, why didn't the Conservation Commission deal with this issue? And they sent it back so that we could get clarification, so. So I think the planning board is supportive. I don't have any hard data, but that's my gut feel. So, okay.
Do you know Bob Harrington enough to,
I don't know him.
would you like to sign it?
Sure.
Okay.
So I don't know where we want to go from here. So we're down to, we talked about monitoring the easements, we talked about climate change, and I mean, I really think that the climate change issue is a big issue, and I think that the more we can get in concert with what, and I know there's a committee, and you know, you're on the committee,
Which,
on the climate,
I'm part of Citizens Climate Lobby?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
and so I think bringing what their concerns are to this, commission is really important.
Well, Citizens Climate Lobby is about federal legislation, and we do stuff also at the state and local level. But it's a national, nonpartisan
Good,
group, and we lobby Congress.
good.
But we've gotten more and more involved on the local level.
And I think that's where we have to start. We have to start at the local level. So the more you can bring, the better. And Muff is involved in this Love Our Earth, and we committed to be part of it. We were part last year, and we're gonna do it again this year. So it's like, how can we be the most effective in that kind of a setting? We need to have handouts, and Deb and Lisa went to it last year. It's the Love Our Earth.
I had a thing there about the medical effects of climate change.
We had the New Hampshire Conservation Commission, when they had their annual meeting, I want to say 2 years ago, because I didn't go this past year.
Mhm.
But it's in November every year. And they had, they actually had some nurses, or maybe it was a doctor too, that gave a presentation about health and climate change.
Yeah, New Hampshire
It was
Healthy
really
Climates
interesting.
is the medical group that does a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're great.
it was great. And I feel like I've heard them twice, actually,
Yeah,
in different
yeah, they're a great group.
venues.
They've been very effective.
Yeah, good. I was just looking at, I had the email for them today. So there's some things going on. Are you done?
Okay.
I was just gonna say, there's some legislature coming up that they wanted people to, voice an opinion or write in or whatever. One of them was on wildlife corridors and habitat strongholds, SB 592. So I know that is something they're gonna take. They have a public hearing scheduled for Thursday, tomorrow. So if anybody felt strongly about that, they could contact their representative. I want to say New Hampshire Lakes is another organization that
Yep.
we work with. They keep a close eye on the legislature that's, affects the lakes and water quality and stuff. And I think they might have a presentation tonight even, I think on Zoom, that was looking at legislation coming up for the year.
So the Lakes Management Advisory Committee, if you go to, they have a web page on the DES website. They have, so there's the Rivers Management Advisory Committee and the Lakes Management Advisory Committee, and both of those feed into the same legislative tracker. So they have a tracker on that website too, that you can click on there and see, what they're opposing or supporting. Or I can copy, I think I did send out something this past week to
That's
ask.
the
Savannah.
Lakes Management.
Lakes Management Advisory Committee,
Okay.
LMAC, it's part of DES, and then there's also the Rivers Management Advisory Committee under DES. And like I said, this legislative tracker, they both feed into that, the last I checked. So that can be informative as well. Just before I forget, because my brain is, I sent Deb, I didn't ask it to get sent all to y'all, because it's not Lakes Region, but farmers are starting to revolt against data centers.
Yeah,
Nationwide, there's kind of like this little network starting that
that was
the
an
farmers are-
interesting article.
Yeah, anyway, I just thought, before I forget about it,
Yeah.
I just mentioned it.
Maybe we can send it to Savannah and she can send it to everybody, because it had some really interesting information about, people that sell their land to data centers, and then the farmers that are left,
They're screwed.
and how it affects their crops,
Yeah.
because they don't have any water all of a sudden. But
And
it
the
was,
pollution from the.
yeah, it's an
They have
interesting
big
article.
diesel generators sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure where we are. I think it passed that that individual towns can't really say much to the state about them. Is that right?
I don't think it passed.
Oh, it didn't pass.
No,
Okay.
I think it's still,
Okay,
Yeah, I don't think it's still,
it still has to come back.
yeah.
okay, good.
They're trying to push it through at the federal level also.
Yeah.
But I don't think that will get it done.
It's part of the free state, you should be able to do whatever you want with your land.
Privatization, well, yeah, I mean, the free, where some of us have had discussions with them, and there have been groups that have been successful in swaying public perception, not public perception, public opinion. There have been multiple places that they want to take public entities or government-owned entities and privatize them, because no land should, in their viewpoint, no land should be owned by the government. So,
Why don't we go to the Native American philosophy? Land should not be owned, period, that's it.
They were pretty successful for a long time.
Until we got involved.
so,
The good legislation passed January 1st, that now it is illegal to dump
yes,
lawn clippings and such in any kind of body of water.
yes.
So that's a good thing. And now people will be held accountable.
People were doing, well, I guess people do that, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
most people, well, I won't say most, a lot of people would dump stuff in without the knowledge that it was actually hurting the lake.
right, so
But,
I think where we saw it most often, Jewett Brook, because there's like 1,000 small lots along Jewett Brook, and people were dumping their grass clippings, and what would happen is then you'd get kind of this freshet or something at some time of the year, and then all this plug of decaying material would float down and then cause problems. So that was kind of, that, aside, the information that in my job that I put out was talking about how the decomposition affects water quality and all this other stuff. But it was also like for the city, there's like, oh, we got this big plug we got to deal with now, so.
Well, and when we did the cleanup of Jewett Brook that year, fortunately, we had a lot of guys from the utility who came, and there was.
PSNH, right? Wasn't it PSNH?
It was the Day of Caring?
Yeah, yeah.
United Way Day of Caring, so they, yeah.
And we found gallon containers of paint in the brook, and there were,
Among a lot of other
there
things.
was, yeah, there
Well,
was,
and Deb,
I think there was a telephone pole they took out.
Deb and I, at different times, and we both still have stencils, I think, have gone along in different sections of Laconia and done stenciling on the drains. It says drains to river, drains to lake, because people don't make that connection. And they all think it goes, somehow it gets treated, and it's like, no, this is not a city that has that. It goes directly to a water body. So we've done that as a project of the Conservation Commission, or school, when you were with school. So, that may be something we want to consider carrying on.
I think if we need to come up with some projects for the Day of Caring, so that we can,
Did I send out, because I got the notice to be submitting projects already. I don't know if I sent it to you guys or.
I don't recall seeing it.
Yeah, I'm gonna make myself a note and I'll send it to Savannah tomorrow
Okay,
to send it out, because they're asking for projects now, so.
so there's, so is it a state organization that does a Day of Caring?
I thought it was the United Way.
Okay,
Yeah, I
United
think
Way has this, and you submit your projects, and then they will assign personnel based, and they'll select projects, and then they assign personnel to do your project.
Very cool.
Yeah,
And,
because
and it's,
companies and groups, let them know that they're willing to do a project. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
yeah, no,
interrupt.
that's fine,
That-
that's fine.
That's who the personnel is, it's coming from.
Right, so
groups
the bank might say, okay, if you want to go and participate, tell your manager or whatever, and then they let people come, and they actually, it's free, and, it's always somebody who supplies food, or donuts, or whatever, and
Yeah,
anybody will work for a donut.
the United,
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
There's another organization called Nature Groupie,
Yep,
and they are always looking for projects and activities.
Volunteers, yep.
yeah,
Yeah, just throwing that out.
yeah, I've volunteered with them, yeah.
and
They're
that's,
fun.
that's at a UNH, they're the ones that coordinate that, Nature Groupie, so.
So that's, we just need to, look for ways that we can take advantage of, people who care about different parts of the state, and it's, anyway. Okay, so one of the things, the agenda for this meeting has to go out 1 week before, 5 days, 4
I
days?
think state law says 72, but we try to do a week, just so that we can,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I think technically 72 hours.
Oh, okay.
But we try to post a week out.
Right. Oh.
I'm sorry, I was gonna say, I think you have to post a week out, but you can do an emergency meeting within 72 hours. I could be wrong, I'm not trying to,
Yeah, I was just gonna, that's,
yeah, no, I'm just,
I personally usually try to get it a week.
yeah.
We
that-
do that for all of our meetings, so.
Right. So my point is that I will typically prepare the agenda. Savannah will give her input, Deb will give hers. But if anybody has another topic that they want to add to the agenda, send it to Savannah, and, because you can't send it to everybody in the commission. And, we'll talk about it, because, it's like, if you have something with regard to climate change, or you come up with something that you want to talk about with regard to doing, so we're doing this NRI, Natural Resource Inventory, and it's being done by FB Environmental, and the lady's gonna come on Zoom at the next meeting, which is this 22nd. 21st. And so she's going to tell us what they are doing, what FB is doing. But they're doing more desktop kinds of studies, you know, whatever is available on the internet and other reports. And we know stuff about our city that needs to be like the aquifers. We need an aquifer protection overlay district. And so if you think of anything that, and here's the basis for what you can do. This is the 2007 Natural Resource Chapter of the Laconia Master Plan. And I think it's online, because I think that's where I got it. So if you go to that and you read it, it'll have different chapters, like there's a chapter on surface water resources, there's one on watersheds, there's one on water quality, sources of pollution, wetlands, the types of wetlands and the regulations that we have, floodplains, groundwater quality and use, soils, vegetation, terrestrial, wildlife habitats, aquifer wildlife habitats, air quality. And each one of those has goals and objectives that were put together in 2007. So we're gonna have a similar format for the natural resource chapter of the master plan that is in the process of being updated now. So I think if everybody can go and just, this is, you know, like it's only, I don't know, 10 pages. 10 pages. Read through it and see, you know, it's like, just like we've already said, like Rod said, you know, the soils aren't really changing much, except where we dump stuff on it. But anyway, read this, get some ideas, and because when FB Environmental comes, they're gonna tell us what they have been contracted to do, and then we may have to do things outside of what they do and give it to them so that they can, like this map, they might not have this map, and we can just give it to them.
What did you say the name was of the report?
I'm sorry?
What was the name of the report?
No, the
No,
name
he's
of the
talking about
report.
the-
Oh, the name of this
You wanted
report?
to-
Oh, it's
yeah.
the Natural Resources chapter of the city master plan
Okay.
from 2007. And I think that's the latest one, although there may be one since.
No, I think that's,
I think we did work on one, but it wasn't adopted. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like they've been doing the master plan for
Yeah.
years.
Right. So this is, let me see, how can I say this simply? This is not my commission, this is our commission. So if you have any thoughts, please share them. Because,
I'm curious, this is more of a question, if I may.
sure, absolutely.
Because I know we've discussed obviously there is a consulting group doing the master plan, or consulting with Laconia, working on the master plan. And we have FB Environmental working on the NRI. So I know we want that to become part of, like, that's basically going to be the natural resources chapter of the master plan eventually. How are we gonna make that happen? Like, because obviously those are two separate entities that are doing them, and then, I don't know, like, I'm just curious how it gets adopted into.
Do we have I would assume we have an opportunity to review what they have before they finalize it. And you want to make sure that they cover all of the issues that we've identified. If they haven't, then you bring it back to them and say, these are, we have determined that these are important issues that need to be addressed in this document, and get feedback from them. So there's an ability to communicate with the people that are preparing this.
Right.
And that's how,
I feel like that is definitely more the case with FB Environmental. I'm curious about how that piece gets then,
So remember,
you know what I mean?
they
Excuse me.
we voted on, there were two options for the master plan chapter on natural resources. One was to essentially take what FB Environmental had done and just kind of fold it in, pull out the, the salient points, fold it in. And then there was the more expensive, let's really take those issues in FB's report and see how they fit with other chapters. So if there was more of a,
Integration.
yeah, it was more complete in integration of, and we, being good shoppers, we went for the more important, the more expensive one, which is going to be much better. And it was the same one that Rob and Tyler wanted. So, but it was our money that was being spent. So,
But I feel like, yes, we will get a chance to overlook it, to take a look at it, and, right?
Yep.
Okay.
yeah, and I think that my recollection of the proposal from FB Environmental had 3 meetings with us, 3 or 4 meetings with us. And they were Zoom meetings, but there was, opportunities for us to comment on what they've done and ask questions, so.
And I think what was recommended here tonight was that we prepare ourselves for that opportunity to talk with them by putting together our own list identifying the issues that we're concerned about, so that when we go in, and we're not sort of going, oh, well, there was something else, but I can't quite remember what it was, So that way, we can have a reasonable conversation with them. So the recommendation to put that list together here in-house makes a great deal of sense.
Right, and I think that there are parts that we are going to have to do. For instance, I think we have identified about 9 vernal pools in the city, and we need to tell them where those vernal pools are. We give them the
The
longitude
coordinates?
and latitudes,
Yeah, the coordinates of it.
and they'll document on a map.
Are we sure we want to give people information about where vernal pools are located? That's a serious question, because,
Serious question.
Well, only if we explain to them how important vernal pools are.
right, they're fragile.
What?
Vernal pools are fragile, as you know.
Yeah, and we talked to the city council 3 or 4 times about a piece of property they were going to sell that has a vernal pool on it.
Right.
And it was a combination of, oh my gosh, I read my National Geographic this month, and it had an article about vernal pools. And, then the local citizens coming up and commenting, so.
But there has to be a regulatory component to it. In other words, this is a vernal pool, and it's protected, and it has to be monitored and all that sort of stuff. And that if someone messes with it, there's a penalty involved in that. So there has to be teeth to this thing.
Right.
Ideally.
So, and I don't know the answer to this. DES doesn't have any,
Teeth.
well, they also don't have any regulation on vernal pools. I thought they did.
The state may not, but
We can
But the
have our
local-
own protection.
Right, that was my question. I didn't know. I thought there was some discussion about protection for vernal pools because they were talking about, it's, the area around it's too small, you actually need to go further out because of
Yep.
so, and I didn't know, I thought that what came out of that was some legality, but I could be wrong. I didn't follow
Is
up with
from
it.
the state level?
yeah, so the recommendation would simply be to look at other states that may have some regulations related to vernal pools.
Yeah.
And take a look at them and see if anything is applicable. But we also know that, at least as far as I know, which is limited, that the local regulations take precedence over, when it's an issue like this, takes precedence over state.
If it's more severe, yeah.
Right. So that the city can put together its own regulation that says, you know, whatever related to whether it's vernal pools or other issues, you know, to address that, to give it some
So
teeth.
is your recommendation that we look at a couple of other examples, model ordinances?
Absolutely.
And
Yep.
then bring it to the planning department to present? Is that how it goes, Savannah? Bring it to the planning department to present to the planning board for adoption, or
Well, to evaluate and then, you know, for consideration.
consideration, right? I'm not gonna stand there
Yeah.
going, vote for it. But, yeah, so how do we want to go about collecting model ordinances from other
I'll pull
locations?
something together.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, good.
So, isn't the state regulation 100 feet from a vernal pool for non-development? But that's as far as they go. They don't stipulate
Well, 100 feet
anything
is
else.
pretty good.
Right, but that's what the state has now,
Right.
but they don't stipulate any other kind of regulations.
They probably don't identify any penalties for disturbing the vernal pools,
I see,
you know. That's part of the,
That's the next step, yeah.
gotcha.
people have to understand that if they do something, that there's gonna be repercussions, you know? But if there's no repercussions, then it doesn't matter, you know?
Right.
You know,
And
fine of $20,000 or something
Well,
like that.
We have discussed fines before, and the city is not,
So-
doesn't like to take them up too much,
Right,
unfortunately.
so, as an example, in the requirement for the development of a particular site, boom, they have to do a stormwater management plan, they have to do,
Right.
a wetland scientist has to come out and, you know,
Right.
study the site and do, wetlands, delineation and all that sort of stuff. And one of the things that we need to make sure is in the requirement is that if there is a vernal pool that's observed, or if an area, identifying vernal pools can be difficult sometimes. So if there's an area that has the potential for a vernal pool, then the requirement is to go back at a particular time of year to determine whether it is or is not a vernal pool. That has to be part of the,
Right,
Okay.
we have done that.
And
Yeah.
we've done that, we've done that.
Oh,
And
right, yeah.
in fact, one applicant, an applicant who you've heard, did a study
yep,
and identified it as a wetland.
Yep.
And because their client didn't understand the difference between a wetland and a vernal pool, came to us and presented that it was a vernal pool. And we said, oh, well, then that changes things a lot. And their wetland scientist had to go back
right,
and document that it was a vernal pool, which they said it was not initially because of the time of year that they did their survey.
of course, yeah.
So,
But-
but we're not shy about asking applicants to go back if they don't give us all the information we need.
Yeah, I guess the question is, and that's the Conservation Commission, but the question is the planning department evaluating that piece as well? Or when they send it off to a third-party engineering firm or whatever to look at it, there needs to be, again, there needs to be some specific requirements associated with it, and somewhere in the regulations says that if this is disturbed, this is what's gonna happen. And I don't think that exists.
No.
That would be a that would
We're in
simply
the
be a
wrong state. We have to
recommendation.
go to New York, go to New York. They'll slap your hands, they'll fine you, they'll, deny your project, and they will send you back, and when you come back, you'll have to do,
No, we did the same thing in Connecticut too.
Right.
It's, but
but we're
in
too,
Massachusetts too. So, but I guess what I'm saying is there would be a recommendation to the planning department that they consider providing more detailed requirements.
Penalties.
And penalties.
And I think that, you know, the planning department can do that. They can recommend penalties, but if the city council doesn't approve it, then
Well,
there'll be
then
no
it,
penalty.
yeah, but ultimately, it's, if the decision-making body, we have no control over that. It's just like, you
Right.
know, it is what it is.
That's right,
You know?
so. Okay, so. Comments, any commissioners have comments?
I don't.
I don't have any comments.
None.
I apologize for commenting too much.
No.
Okay, so what about staff comments? No? Oh my gosh.
I
You
wasn't
guys
aware
always-
that I had to have comments.
What?
I didn't know I was supposed to have comments.
No, not have, it's, you guys always give us good information.
Any information on any building that's happening, everything's going well,
Wes started, our project manager started this week.
nice.
He's settling in just fine, I think. And
So
then-
I don't understand the relationship between Wes and Rob.
So, like, within our department now,
Well, yeah,
well, Wes works underneath Rob,
okay,
yeah.
Is Wes writing grants and then managing the projects if they're awarded? Is that what's going on?
I don't think Wes is gonna be doing anything with grants.
Yeah.
He's really gonna be
Okay.
out in the field looking
With
at people's
compliance.
projects.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
compliance,
okay.
making sure that they're following the rules.
Oh, okay, well, that's good. That addresses a lot of
Mm-hmm.
things that we had talked
Yeah,
about.
I think it's been the wild, wild west is how I've,
Wild Wild West now.
yes, so, that'll be good.
You know, I think that if you wanna see how things are going to be done, all you have to do is look at, Pumpkin Fest. Pumpkin Fest was buttoned up.
You know who ran Pumpkin Fest? A woman.
That's it. But it was, Wes had his responsibilities,
Yes.
which is, I watched him walk up and down and up and down and up and down. I'm like, Wes, you must have, how many steps do you have so far? He goes, oh, I don't know, probably around 20,000.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not even noon.
We're lucky to have him for sure,
Yeah, he's a really good guy.
yes,
He's a good guy. Very buttoned up. Military.
yes.
That's
That's
it.
all. Our
So we're
whole
gonna
office.
see how the Army works with the Air Force.
Yeah, well, yeah. We have Scott too. Scott was also served.
Right.
I don't know when though, or in what. But our whole office pretty much.
So, there we go.
Mr.
Okay.
Chair- Oh, I was gonna say.
What?
I was gonna make a motion to adjourn, but.
I know, I could figure that out.
Things are clearing away from me and I'm back
Okay,
up.
so, anybody have any comments on adjourning? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Next meeting is,
Next meeting is the 21st. And Savannah's going to give Sarah Sullivan, who is the project manager for FB Environmental, the Zoom address. And Deb's going to be out of town, so if you want to participate,
I don't know if I'll be able to.
okay.
Ooh,
It's
has
going to be
Bob's
too
card-
hot.
I
Bob's-
do. I
Bob's
have no
card.